So we are live now on YouTube.
Yes, I can see that.
Hello everyone. Good evening. RSMDACC Dharampet Arts and Commerce College welcomes you all to this certificate course in creative writing. Friends, creativity is the brain's invisible muscle that, when used and exercised routinely, it becomes better and stronger. So engage, enlighten, encourage, and especially just be yourself, because everyone is an asset. Everyone is unique. Today, we have a unique personality with us, and it's a great pleasure for me to introduce Dr. Shobha Kane to you. Dr. Shobha Kane is a teacher, researcher, and a teacher educator currently working as Assistant Professor of English at Anna University, Chennai. An avid learner interested in investigating ways to approach and handle classroom issues in teaching the English language, she has a PhD in English funded by the University Grants Commission's NET Senior Research Fellowship, a Master's in Education, and TESOL USA certifications in teaching English. She is also the recipient of the Innovative Teachers Award 2020, presented by the Rotary Club of Madras, Coromandel. Dr. Shobha has authored textbooks and workbooks with Cambridge University Press and Orient Black Swan for learners of the English language at the tertiary level, in addition to several research articles. And then she has been a member of the content development team of the Content and Language Integrated Learning textbooks for the Tamil Nadu Textbook Corporation for Arts and Commerce Colleges. TANSCHE. What does that stand for, ma'am?
TANSCHE, Tamil Nadu State Council for Higher Education.
Okay. And the ITI textbooks on employability skills for the National Instructional Media Institute, Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. Dr. Shobha is also a trainer cum consultant for the Researcher Connect program of the British Council and runs workshops for teachers and students at the US Consulate General. She has been working with the State Council of Educational Research and Training for the state of Andhra Pradesh since November 2019 in leading teacher education programs and editing textbooks at the primary level. She consults for various training organizations, currently both online and offline, in designing course frameworks and content. She is also of the strong conviction that the 21st century skills of communication, critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration are vital to both learners and teachers of the English language, because English opens doors. So let us meet our today's resource person, Dr. Shobha KN. So I'll call you Shobha. Yes, because yes. And yes, dear Shobha, what do you like about yourself? First, you tell me that. What do you like about yourself?
Okay. So thank you, first of all, for that wonderful introduction. Too generous with your words, and it has energized me a lot because when you started off saying that creativity is also a muscle that you will have to train and develop every
Yes,
day.
yes, yes.
I also believe in that kind of an idea, and it is a muscle which comes with consistency and practice. So, coming to your question about what I like about myself is I usually prepare a small slide in the beginning of my presentation. If there is no introduction and if I have to introduce myself to a class in the beginning of a semester or something, I put everything, what all you've read, ma'am, and at the last line would be wake up with the reason to learn something new. So whenever I put that, my students would tell me, ma'am, we know that you have done all this, but your last point when you said wake up with a reason to learn something new, I think that is exactly what all of us should be doing. So whether it is teacher trainers or students or PhD research scholars, with whomever I do a session, I tell them why it is important to keep learning.
Uh-huh.
Reach out. We have to reach out tremendously, and we will also have to experiment a lot. Now, again, going back to the introduction, while all of us were cringing about 2020 as the most
Yes.
difficult year, as why is this happening to me, kind of mentality, we also had opportunities to reach out to people whom we have never met.
Yes.
As we were just discussing, ma'am, before the session started,
Yes.
earlier we used to have the constraints of travel. We used to love exploring academically. We'll attend conferences, we'll go to places, but then there was some kind of a scheduling issues that we will have. But now I think we are all just free to explore anywhere
Yes.
inside Zoom. So Zoom is just a click away, and the moment you start exploring, there is no stopping. So morning, I did a session for a college in Chennai, my own university. Again in the late evening, I have another session. 7 o'clock, I have a meeting with the University of Warwickshire, England. So we have these kinds of ideas where we can easily blend our day, and I think all this comes with a little bit of exploration.
Definitely.
So
We've all learned, and I think the teaching fraternity has learned really a lot during this pandemic, isn't it? And
very
we've all
true.
become techno savvy and
Very
we are
true.
doing
Look
so
at us.
many things.
I
Yes.
know. We used to think YouTube is for
Yes,
the tech
yes.
savvy. Oh, YouTube and all, we are not very comfortable. I don't want to appear on YouTube. But then
Yes.
for the Andhra Pradesh government, when we were exploring YouTube, there were so many views, more than 2 lakh, 3 lakh
Yes,
teachers
yes,
were
yes.
logging in. And when they
Yes,
were
yes.
watching my videos, it's a different experience. And now you understand how
Altogether.
you can exploit it. So I think
Definitely.
that is the most, lovable trait of myself that I like. I just don't shy away from exploring, though it is difficult in the beginning. I don't shy away from people, because people means opportunities, people means new connections and new emotions.
Yes,
And
very
I have
nice.
only learned that the more different we seem to be, our challenges, our wishes seem to be the same. We are
Definitely.
easily able to emotionally connect with the other person. We are able to empathize very easily, because your challenge is also my challenge in the
Yes.
classroom.
Yes,
And when
yes.
I talk about creativity, when you said the word muscles, we just connected. So
Yes.
I think that is, everyone should develop that kind of a trait, not think about the other person as the other, but
Right,
an
right, right,
extension
right,
of yourself.
right, right. And what are your hobbies? What do you do in your free time?
Okay, so very recently, my hobby has changed a bit. I am I'm an avid reader, a kind of a bookworm person. I stay indoors. I read a lot, but nowadays I've started listening to a lot of podcasts. I also watch a lot of Netflix these days, because I've understood that there are so many things to learn. And
Definitely, yes.
earlier I used to watch Hindi movies or English movies, all the mainstream ones. But these days I've started exploring, a wide range of movies, Turkish, whether it is Telugu
Hmm.
or all the Bengali, Marathi, all different kinds of movies.
Yes,
And I have also seen that there is so much to learn
yes,
from
yes,
everybody's struggle and challenge. So I think, this is what I do. I think every other teacher should also be doing
yes.
this. It kind of relaxes us,
Yes,
apart
and
from.
yeah, and you get a different perception. You understand different people from different world. You are, I
Exactly.
think, yes, and you change as a person because you learn from so many different people, so many different religions, so many types of people from different parts of the world. So I
Mm,
think it really changes you,
yeah,
and everything sitting in your home, isn't it?
exactly,
So
exactly.
you don't have to go anywhere, and everything
Mm.
is available. Yes.
So
Okay,
those
but
are my
who's
thoughts.
your role model? Who's your role model?
Okay, so I would not say one particular person as my role model. Like,
Huh?
there are several people who have inspired me,
Mm-hmm.
but I very closely follow Michelle Obama's,
Okay.
because for me, when I read her book Becoming recently, or when I've listened to her speeches online, I see the kind of energy she exuberates, and also she has undergone a lot of struggles in her life. There is no denying that,
Yes,
but
yes.
being with the man that she wanted to be and doing those things, understanding what humility is, actually being very humble but powerful, women empowerment, when she talks about all those things, I kind of, it energizes me a lot, and I
Yes.
always look up to her. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. And Shobha, do you think that incidents in our life they shape our course of life? They take you wherever you are. Many times
Absolutely.
we plan so many things, but certain things happen and you have to take another way or another road or something like that. And ultimately, wherever you reach, it is because of the incidents. Do you think like that, or do you think that you plan and everything happens like that?
No, we all know that man proposes but God
God
disposes.
disposes.
So
Yes.
we know that though we are good planners, even in our day-to-day schedule, like a
Mm-hmm.
very mundane thing like cooking, one incident happens and you change your entire menu. You get a phone call, somebody's coming. So
Yes.
you change the plan for the day. So I don't believe that we can plan and make a very hard schedule for ourselves, but we should rather be flexible. I think that is
Yes.
what lockdown changed us.
Yes.
Taught us also. It has taught us that we need to adapt. We need to be extremely flexible so that we are ready to face and overcome, whatever life throws at us. So I think there are several incidents. In fact, the kind of persons we meet, the kind of opportunities we get when we just say no, it means we have shut the door forever. I don't think that opportunity will come back to us. So there are going to
Yes.
be several incidents, like even with students. I think we create those kind of incidents for students also. I would like to recollect the example of one of my students called Selvam. Now Selvam was studying agriculture and his parents were farmers. His parents were farmers, and he was not a student who was very eloquent in the English language. He would always speak in the local language, but he wanted to learn the language. So when he used to visit my cabin to ask for notes, or I used to encourage him, you just sit first. And I use an iPad for my classes. So I just gave him the iPad and said, there are a lot of books in it. Just see whether you would like to read anything. So he started exploring it and he told me, ma'am, I don't know how to use this. I told him, no, it's very simple. It's just like your mobile phone. You just try and use it. You will be able to get the hang of it. Of course, the first 2 days he was struggling. I was looking at him, though I pretended to be doing something else. But then very slowly he had that eagerness and he started coming very frequently from the iPad. He started reading a lot of books which I had already loaded in it. So after that, he became very confident and he started speaking in English, though not in very
Oh.
fluent English. He was very confident. So one day there was this visiting professor from the US who was there in the corridor. We were just chatting. And when Selvam passed that way, I just called him and I introduced him to the professor and I said, he is one of my star learners, because I always love students who move from that 40 to 60 rather
Right.
than
Right.
90 to 100.
Right.
My
Right.
students would ask me, ma'am, you never care about us. I am like, you know how to do it. I'm sure you will do it. But these are the students who need my help. So
Right.
when he kind of spoke to that woman, and she also, she was very friendly with him and she was also speaking very well. And then he went away and I did not meet him for a month or so. But later he came back and he was telling me, ma'am, why did you do that? I felt so scared. But now when she was talking with me, and now I have got the real confidence. And after that I understood that he had applied for some scholarship. He had got the
Oh.
scholarship
Oh.
also. So for us this can be a very insignificant event, an incident that does not make sense to us. On that day, if he had not visited my room, or if I had not given him the iPad
Yes.
to explore, I think he
Yes.
would have been a very different student. So
Yes.
I think every incident, and this incident is engraved in my mind also. So I kind of create these incidents for my students so that they have that life changing opportunities.
Yeah. And Shobha, actually, yesterday we had a expert in English, but she was a senior, right, BSNL executive. And on the first day, we had a person who was an editor. Okay, but today we have a teacher. Huh? Today we really have a teacher, and that too, English teacher, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you teach English. So what are the challenges you face while teaching English?
Oh my God. Now this is going to be a tough question, but I love this question.
But what kind of students do you have in your this thing? Like very average students or bright students, or what type of students do you have?
So the
Mixed.
university that I work for, Anna University, it is the state's technical university, and we have about 500 colleges affiliated to our university. All are engineering colleges. Because it's a technical institution, we have mostly the students who have scored more than 90 percentage or 80 percentage in their schools, and they come from all parts of Tamil Nadu. Now, because this is a government institutions, we have the reservation, and we have everything in place so that
Right.
everybody gets equal opportunity there. And
Right.
because of this, students from different colleges who have not had enough exposure to the English language, who have not who have learned and memorized, and they have fallen to that kind of a learning
Right.
pattern.
Right. Right.
But when they come to the university, the learning is different. There is no spoon feeding. When
Definitely.
it comes to the language, it's no more a subject, it's a skill. Because you need that skill not only to write your exam answers, but also to communicate, socialize. Because you are in that kind of an age, you're opening up, you're learning a lot, you're getting initiated into the adult
Yes.
world.
Hmm.
So it's a challenge to deal with, particularly that group of learners, that age group of learners. Because you don't only have to take care of them academically, sometimes there are also emotional needs for these learners. The
Yes.
initial days when they come to stay in their hostels, there is so much of depression, and
Yes.
that
Yes.
longing in the face. So we'll have to create that kind of an atmosphere, and it's only after we have created this safe and non-threatening space in the classroom can we think about teaching them English.
Yes.
And when we start teaching them English, there is an absolute need for us to make them understand why this is important for them in their lives. So we
Right.
cannot just start off saying, okay, these are the prepositions, these are the technical English
Right
rules,
from the
we have
beginning,
to
you have to
follow
teach.
them. So
Yes.
sometimes there are students who need that. We also have NRI candidates, so candidates who come from very good schools. So it's a perfect
Mixed
mix and
package.
match,
Yeah.
and they are
Yes. Yes.
highly heterogeneous. So as a teacher, I have to be very smart in creating group activities where people are able to express their talents, and they converse, they communicate, they discuss, so that everyone's talent gets exposed and students form, they gel with each other.
Yeah.
So that is one challenge I always face. But so far we've been able to create those kind of activities, learning activities, because at the end of the day, learning is all that counts, and it
Yes.
has to be measurable also. So
Yes.
that would be the challenge because of the heterogeneous nature of learners we have. I think this is true about any state.
Definitely.
This
Even
is true
we,
about your
yeah.
classroom.
Yes, going through the same thing. Yes.
Yeah, whether your students are engineering students or
Yeah.
language students also. So,
Yes.
we have
Yes.
those kind of challenges, but we enjoy and thrive in working
Right.
with difficulties.
Yes, yes. And you have been working with the SCRT, isn't it? And you
Yes.
have been preparing textbooks. So, what
Hmm.
kind of books do we need to inculcate creative writing? Have you
Exactly.
ever given a thought? Because, even I am into textbook writing, but there are so many things which we need to take care of because there is a set of guidelines given to us.
Hmm.
But what do you do if you want to like inculcate creative writing?
Yeah, this is an excellent question because they think that textbook writers are like non-fiction writers. They have a guide or a formula where you just have to fit in things.
Yes.
Absolutely not. I think any textbook requires a lot of creativity because when it goes into the child's hand, the child and the teacher should feel motivated to read through the books.
Yes.
So when I worked with the Andhra Pradesh SERT, uh, the first challenge that we had was to develop English textbooks in the English medium for other subjects also, math and science and social sciences for classes 1 to 6. So I was collaborating with another professor from Canberra, and both of us were looking at the challenges. How do we introduce these concepts for children who have been studying in the mother tongue so far, but now they are going to learn everything in English? So we had to come up with a lot of creative ideas because it is not going to be page after page of content in English because there is no learning that will happen. So a lot of reinforcement activities, lot of practice activities. So all this has to come up within the given domain. Now, say for
Yes.
example, if we are dealing with a second standard learner, we know academically which English words the learner would require. So we
Yes.
would have to come up with those words, and like Dr. CS does in his children's book, he takes those 50 words and repeats it over and over so that the child masters that number of words. So similarly, we also had an academic list of words, and we saw to it that there was a lot of repetition, reinforcement. So a
Yeah.
lot of creativity has to come. Even if you're adapting a story, if you are rewriting for the children, I will I believe all of you will agree that whether it is translation or summarizing or abridging, all requires a lot of creativity. Which
Definitely.
events do you choose to leave? Which event do you choose to highlight? Even if you're going to talk about Rabindranath Tagore or Charles Dickens, you know that it is difficult for us to give the entire text,
Yes.
and for that age group of learners. So I think it involves a lot of creativity. And we all know that we have the 21st century skills in which communication, critical thinking,
Yes.
creativity is already there. So whether you're a textbook writer or an author or a
Yes.
poet, definitely creative writing is going to be there.
Yeah. And you have received Innovative Teachers Award from the Rotary, and that too in 2020 only, very
I
recently.
know.
Yeah. So, what
Mm.
was that innovation, and can you elaborate on that
Yeah.
innovation?
So what was happening was, so 2020 closed the gates of schools,
Yeah.
classrooms on all teachers and students, because in a country like India, we know that schools are the safest places where children can be,
Hmm.
because most of the parents work. And I'm not talking about the urban elite, but also the different parts of the country where children have no place to be safe,
Yes.
especially the girl child. We know the problems that are happening in the country. And when schools closed, both the teachers and the children were at a loss. So there were a lot of programs via NGOs and other things, a lot
Mhm.
of proposals that were being submitted to this Innovative Teacher Award. And I started exploring this particular app called Arlupa. AR,
Okay.
okay, there is this app called Arlupa, through which we can create bite-sized videos.
What is
And
this? AR?
LOOPA,
Okay. Alupa. Okay. Okay.
Arlupa.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
So through this app, we can create lot of videos using a simple smartphone, where you have in animated features also. Now say
Mm-hmm.
for example, if I am going to explain the earth, there is an option where I can actually hold the earth in my hands and show it to
Oh,
my
yes.
students. If
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to explain the solar system, I can just bring it, and without any models, it is all virtually embedded in the app. So we
Yes.
started exploring this app, and we created a lot of videos, especially for children from first standard to fifth standard, because that is where I think the need is felt.
Yes. Yes.
Though teachers were screaming their hearts out on the other side of the screen, it was very difficult for children to follow. So we explored in this, and we checked out the learnability, the outcomes. And that was one proposal I submitted. There were more than 600 to 700 proposals that were
Wow.
finalized.
Oh.
But because this had that measurable outcomes, I think this particular project got selected. And because it happened in 2020, I'm all the more happy, because even in my own university, they were not able to believe. So
Uh-huh.
2020, everybody was struggling, and you get an award for something. So
Hearty congratulations for that.
thank you
Yeah.
so much.
And
Thank
while talking to you, I really am realizing that so many things you must be doing. Every day you must be up to something,
you. Learn
researching
something.
and doing. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And one more thing, like while reading your introduction, I think I read about large classrooms. And like whenever we talk about India, we talk about large classrooms. That India has large classrooms. And how do you deal with large classrooms actually? Because you've been like dealing with so many issues related to classroom. So
Exactly.
because you talked about mixed classrooms and mixed ability students are there, so just share a few things. What do you do? How do you manage this large classroom?
Okay. So thank you for asking that question, because many teachers in any kind of a teacher training program, the moment you mention, okay, tell me one challenge or
Yes,
difficulty you face in the classroom, the teacher
let's say
would
it's a
raise their hand and they would say,
it's a
my
lie.
classroom is too large. I don't know what to do. I want to try out all this. I want to help them speak. I want to listen to everyone. But what do I do with
It's
the
not
numbers?
possible. Yes.
I think we have to understand that in a country like India, where human resource is our strength, we also have to acknowledge the fact that we will have to deal with large classrooms.
Yes.
There have been several research papers and a lot of work that has been done on managing large classrooms. My personal tip would be, diagnose and understand your classroom first. See what are
Yes.
the strengths of the classroom. Sometimes the classroom, the number might look large, but then it might be a homogeneous group of learners who can all be in the same language level. So as soon as my students come, I kind of do a testing, a language level test, And I
Okay.
understand that, okay, if all the students, we usually follow the CEFR scaling.
Yes, yes.
So we understand that, okay, if our learners are largely in the B1, B2 group, it is okay for us to devise these kind of
Hmm.
activities. If the learners are in A1, or not definitely A1, A2, or in B2, B1 level, then we have to keep that in mind, and throughout the semester we have to create those kind of
Yes,
activities. If you don't do this, then it becomes a struggle for the teacher. We might be thinking something and we would design a worksheet and give it to our
yes.
students, but the results would be pathetic, and you would be asking, okay, what went wrong? Why did so many students not get it right?
Right.
So diagnosing the level of your classroom, and based on it, when you work through the textbook or through the materials that you're planning to use in that particular semester or year, will be a great help, because the classroom might look large, but there might be only 4 or 5 pockets of learners who
Yes.
will have those characteristics. And when you understand to mix and match, it's absolutely a pleasure to work with large classrooms. Also, people will take
Yes.
care of themselves.
Yes, yes. And peer tutoring and peer
Exactly.
learning. Yeah, there are so many things you can devise. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So peer learning can happen.
Yeah, and nowadays students want everything ready-made. Copy pasting is going on. See, when you are talking about technology, these things are also there, isn't it?
True,
So
true.
students want, why students, even the grown-ups, we see that even the PhDs are like copy pasted and so many things. And everybody now wants everything like very fast, and they don't have patience also. Nobody wants to wait. Nobody wants to read books, and even if you give anything to read, they won't. If it is too long, they won't read at all. Even the WhatsApp messages, if they're too long, nobody would read, isn't it? So in this Maggie noodles world, isn't it, this is a world of Maggie noodles and what you say, Zomato, where nobody wants to cook at home. So in this fast forward world, what do you think? Do you think that the power of expression is going, because like everything is condensed, everything is reduced, everything is copy pasted, nobody wants to use their own brains only, isn't it? So what type of a world are we going into? Like, uh, where is the creativity? Where is the creativity? Do you think? But there are some children who are really very creative. They would be reading, but there are majority of the people who would be taking from here and there. So what do you think about the creativity when you are reading about such things?
So all of us would have to go back to Alvin Toffler when he talks about the idea of learning, unlearning, and relearning.
Yes.
You spoke about instant gratification, where children are playing video games. They want instant winning, because they are doing that. Even they cook, even when they ask their mothers to cook, they want something that comes very fast on their
Fast. Yes.
tables.
Yes.
Everything is very intense. When my son says, "I'm hungry," he's like already
Yes.
crying and throwing a tantrum. I'm
Yes.
telling him, if
Yes.
you feel like hunger pangs, just tell me before 5 minutes, so that
Right. Right.
I can make something. But suddenly you go hungry. I don't understand how. For like you're playing the video game, suddenly you go hungry. I don't
Yes.
understand. But then, as you said, it is that kind of a world that we are living in. But creativity is being expressed in different ways these days. So we think that creativity means people who write poems, people who create certain beautiful art forms. But ma'am, if you observe very closely, this generation, the millennials, are very sharp.
Yes.
They understand that whatever we are doing is not going to count for tomorrow, because tomorrow
Yes.
is going to be a totally different day.
Yes.
They understand that we cannot base our past and judge our present, nor can we use our present to judge our tomorrows. There's also another thought, like how we are preparing our own children for the kind of jobs that have not yet existed.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
a very familiar thought in the educational world. And you wouldn't believe, when I also talk to my own son about what are his academic pursuits or what he wants to does, there are a large number of students who talk about certain professions that I really don't understand. Like
Hmm.
yesterday, I read in the paper there was some 17-year-old who was sitting in his house exploring all the data, and he was working on one Scotland's football team. He
Oh.
was working on the team, and he was actually giving ideas like which players they should be recruiting,
Yes.
because
Hmm.
these players are performing well, and these kids are very sharp in their data analytics. They
Yes.
watch
Yes.
all the football matches, they listen to all these other kind of issues where they are arguing. They see how many goals these people have taken, and finally that 17-year-old is making so much of money because the Scotland's team manager himself has got in contact into him. Now, what would
Yes.
you call this? Is this not creativity?
Yes.
So it took a long time for me for that information to sink in and
Register. Yes.
understand.
Yes.
And okay, how does this work? Because our generation people, we are very good. Our parents told us you can become doctor, engineer, teacher, okay, or you can become at the most a chemist or nurse or something else.
Yes. Yes.
But these days, the kind of names that our children are coining for their professions are very different. There was one child who was saying, I want to become an esports journalist. I
Yes.
was
Yes.
thinking,
Yes.
what is this
Very niche.
esports,
Yeah.
first of all?
Mm.
I don't understand, because when you say esports, is it sports that is played on the internet,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
or is it, how does that work? You tell me I want to become a sportsman, I understand. But what
Yes.
is this esports analyst or specialist? So they are highly creative. And it now looks like all of us are speaking different languages when it comes to the
Yes.
next generation.
Yes.
So
Yes.
though this generation stands for instant gratification, though this generation stands for impatience, there is a certain quality in them which
Yes.
shows us that they are very, focused, and they want only what they want. I
Yes.
think it is our generation when our parents said, oh, if you don't get BSc chemistry, you do BA English. We are
Yes.
like, okay, we will do BA English. Okay, you want us to do mathematics? We will do, mama, no problem. So we
Ours
kind
was a
of,
sandwich generation, I think.
yeah,
We listened to our parents, and now we are listening to
listening
our
to our
children
children also.
because they know like more than what we know as far as
Yeah.
technology is concerned. Yeah.
And when my students see, some of the students of my university has gone out and become great movie
Yes.
directors. They have
Yes.
become
Yes.
national award maker. I used to wonder, why would he study engineering and go and become a movie director? But then those are the pressures the society throws on them.
Yes.
But they
Yes.
find their ways out. So I think when it comes to creativity, it's a different kind of creativity that we are not still
Yes.
understanding.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I used to feel that with technology, there is nothing like what will happen to the imagination. The imagination will be of a different type. But earlier, we used to, whenever the teacher used to tell us a story, we could imagine anything because nothing was given to us, nothing was in front of us. We did not have the videos, we did not have anything, we did not even know the real thing, how that particular thing existed.
Yeah.
How were the Eskimos, or like there were so many other things also. We just learnt about them, we read about them, but we never saw them as such on the screens, or maybe not even in the textbooks or something like that. So our imagination really, it ran wild. But
Exactly.
now, like if you tell anything to a child, he has like his mobile and everything, and he just will tell you in a minute what it looks like. So do you think that the imagination and all will, like, now that imagination, that type of imagination,
Yeah.
it won't exist anymore?
I
Because
think you've
everything is
corrected yourself.
satisfied only. It is
Yeah,
satisfied. Everything is,
exactly.
you just click a button and you get everything in front of you. So what will happen to the imagination?
There is an excellent book called Why Do I Need a Teacher When I Have Google?
Right, right.
Right.
Yes. Right,
So
but that
when
is a different thing. Yeah. Huh.
yeah, so when I used to discuss, do you guys think you are all smarter, and you have already evolved and you're traveling ahead of us? Of course, that is true. But as you rightly said, that imagination or that type of imagination, of course, when we were all studying post-colonialism, I hope you would agree with me that we learned that there are no cultures that are higher or lower, they're
Oh,
only
yes,
different.
definitely. Yes.
So the cultures are different, right? Similarly, creativity, when it comes to creativity, because we followed that, we think the creativity that we have is at a higher level. When we read Tintin Abbey, nor had we visited
Yes. Nothing,
England,
nothing.
we didn't know
Yes.
what an abbey will
Yes,
look
yes.
like, and we
Yes.
heard the water falling and we imagined wildly, right? The moment you say Tintin Abbey to the child, the child will actually open Tintin
Yes.
Abbey and they will say,
Yes.
okay, so this is Tintin Abbey. But then we also have to understand that their type of creativity and imagination is very
Yes.
different, and it is
Yes.
definitely of a different kind. So there is no argument, okay, mine is higher, yours is lower. It's only that they think different because they are wired very differently. I think it goes back to human evolution. So every
Mhm.
generation moves ahead, and we have to give due credit for human beings, because we want our children to be smarter than us. We want
Yes.
them to be more powerful, and
Yeah.
creativity is also a different
But when we are talking about, power of expression, When I say I love you, it is something different. And if I just send you a smiley, do you think it will have the same effect? Just
Okay, that's a
casually, we
great
just want to
question.
just talk. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
nowadays children talk on with the help of smileys and all these things only. Do you
Stickers.
feel, stickers? Do you feel that they communicate the same emotion?
That's what they say. They say that why are you not able to understand what I'm saying? Because memes, if you look at the memes these days,
Uh-huh.
we don't understand. Okay, what are they saying? Are they saying that this is a good thing or a bad thing? Because some of the memes that we look at or we create are very clear and direct, but the next generation memes are becoming more cryptic, and they
Yes.
say that it has to be cryptic, right? What is the fun if it is so obvious, mama, they ask. And
Oh,
I am
yes.
like, yeah, okay, maybe you're right, and I don't get it. I will have to ask the context, and then he will say, this is the actor who did that in that movie, so now he's telling this to this actor, do you get it? And I am like, I'm sorry, I don't know. So
Yes.
he will say, you have a smartphone, you have Google, you watch Netflix, but still you don't know. He'll just say, I'll say, I don't need that. My college says you do this, you do that.
Yes,
I'm
yes,
happy and I'm doing this. So when it
yes.
comes to the power of expression,
Uh-huh.
again, we will have to say that it has evolved. So earlier we used to say that somebody who has the gift of the gab is a good communicator. But these days, somebody who has the power of the pauses, somebody who is able to communicate very little but very powerfully and sharply, they are the best communicators. So there is a
Yes,
lot of changes because we also
yes,
deal with MBA students, we teach a lot of business communication. We have moved from a long talk to elevator pitch.
yes. But
So
then, do
elevator
you think
pitch.
that language is not important at all? Like earlier, we used to see write letters, but now that letters and everything has gone. Okay, I
Yeah.
agree to that. But when you write, you express so many things. Nowadays, without writing, how do you think that people can express? Like
um,
the depth of that feeling, do you think it will be communicated to the person who's sitting in front of you, or who's not there only? He must be staying miles away. Do you think that, and it will have the same effect? Like if
uh,
you just send a smiley, or if you don't write, we used to write letters, long, long letters. People
yeah.
used to write love letters. What is the nowadays? How do they communicate their love then?
Now when it comes to the generation gap, like if you write a long letter to me, I'll be very happy, and if I write one
I
like
know, I
that to
know,
you,
I
you'll
know.
be very happy. But if we write to the same to our next generation, they'll be like, what is
Yeah,
wrong
there
with
is.
you? Looks
Yes,
like you
yes,
have all the time in the world. You seem
yes,
to
yes.
have a lot, and when our children send us one liners, we are very upset. So I think it's more of generation. But brothers and sisters, if you see, they are very good. They send one liners and they are responding very well, they are
Yes, yes,
communicating very well. So I
yes.
think it's more of a generation
We
gap
n-
that we are facing, and
yes.
they are
We
able to
need,
understand.
and
Yeah.
we need to adjust to all those things. Yes. Yes. And social media is changing the way we communicate and the way we are perceived, both positively and negatively. So
Exactly.
every time you post a photo or update your status, you are contributing to your own digital footprints and personal brand. So let us learn about writing for social media and blog writing, which have no doubt brought revolution in the world. And we learn this from the fountain of inspiration, that is Dr. Shobha.
Oh my
Yes,
God, you're using
because
big
we
words
really
now.
had a very nice interaction, and I love talking to you. And like, let us move on to social media and blog writing. Yes, over
Thank
to
you
Dr.
so much.
Shobha. Yes,
Thank you, ma'am.
yes,
So now the interesting point of our conversation, if you can see, we started with communication, we started with our personal challenges, but what is more required at the moment is how do we express ourselves virtually? So
yes,
you can see how important virtual communication has become. All of us have become experts of Zoom or Google
yes,
Meet and every other video conferencing platform we have started using. And also, we are sharing everything on WhatsApp and Facebook. In case I tell you that I'm sick and I'm going to take a day off today from office, the moment I go out with my friend and my friend takes a picture of us,
yes,
say at partying or in the beach somewhere, and our friend might post it, we might
yes,
think, okay, we have quietly taken leave and we have gone, but that photo will travel
yes, yes,
distances
yes,
and ultimately it will land in the mobile
yes,
phone of the person you whom
yes,
you don't want to see. That is the power of social media these days. So anything that you do with social media is a permanent mark on your digital footprint, as you
Yes,
rightly said, ma'am.
yes,
And writing, the power of expression in social media also has a lot of pros and cons, as you also mentioned. There is a great field, a potential field, which our learners, which many of our students and teachers can explore, that is content development for the internet, for social media, because it is a revenue generating area.
yes, yes,
So these days, people are writing a lot, just like when you have those YouTube videos, 1,000 subscribers or 10,000 subscribers, they start paying you.
yes,
Similarly, when your blog or when your social media post gets a lot of impact, I think you start being an influencer. These
yes,
are all new words that we don't know. You know, who is an influencer and how do they create that kind of an influence? Do we always imagine that when a leader comes on the stage and when they just wave, we think it is their natural charisma? But no, they also practice really
yes,
hard
yes,
to
yes,
achieve the perfect smile, the perfect eye contact, and the perfect way of signing off or something. Similarly, when it comes to the social media, writing can be your currency, right? So we will try and look at that, because all of you
yes,
have started writing in the social media, our students, our teachers, and let us see what skills we actually require and
yes.
why it is important to write in the social media and in blogging. I'm sharing my screen now. I have prepared a small presentation. So I hope you're able to see the screen.
Yes, yes.
Great. So here you can see how it is important for social media and blogs when we start writing. What are some of the things that we need to know? And this like symbol is one of the most important symbols that people are craving for. And how do we do that? We started off with this metaphor. Knowingly or unknowingly, Manjushri ma'am, she had read my mind, and she said that creativity is also like a muscle. So I would say creative writing is also like developing your muscles. So most of us know, whether when it comes to being very fit, or whether when we are trying to lose weight, or when you want to become very fit, you have to do these exercises. And when we do these exercises, it is also very obvious that we have to do it with lot of consistency and practice, right? So instead of putting it in words, I've just shown a picture here. You can see how here is a man who's trying to do his push-ups very he looks like he's very consistent, because you can see his biceps and triceps. This kind of practice will be required when you are going to do creative writing also. Don't think that if it is creative writing, it just has to flow out. There is lot of effort that goes into creative writing, especially on social media and blogs. Now most of you would have read lot of advertisements on Amazons, when they tell you that the new year sale is here, the big dhamaka Flipkart sale is there, or all those big words that they create. Now it is those words that pull us inside that particular website, or we try and check that blog. So it is definitely one of the key talents that this particular generation has. And let us try and explore more about this. So here I have one of my favorite characters. Which movie this is coming from. And you have Mufasa, the Lion King. The Lion King is talking to Simba, and that's the very famous Pride Rock that they are sitting on. And here the original dialogue of the movie is, everything the light touches is our kingdom. Okay. Similarly, when you start writing on the social media for a profession, when you start creating content for the social media, when you want people to follow you, when you start blogging, if you're asking me what kind of content is suitable, any kind of content is suitable. Everything the light touches is content. So there is no restrictions that you should write only about a particular idea, because every idea will have its own followers. People will want to read every kinds of every kind of content. So please keep in your mind that if you're going to create a Facebook page, or if you're going to create any kind of a blog, you have to select your content. And if you're wondering what kind of content I should select, here is the answer to the question. Everything the light touches is actually content. We were discussing this particular idea before a few minutes, whether writing is relevant today. We were just asking if are people going to keep writing. So for us, at least, before the millennials, people who were born in the 80s or 70s or 60s, for us, the moment somebody says writing, this is the image that comes to our mind, right? So the image that comes to our mind is a pen holding hand, and then there is a paper, and then somebody is writing. This is the metaphor, or this is the image that we get. But then it need not be the same. It need not be the same in the sense, even these days people are writing, and most of us have started typing, right? Most of us do a lot of typing these days. We use the keyboard. We know the keyboard. None of us went to typewriting classes. Like, I went to a typewriting class years before, but then the keyboard that we use today, we are very seamlessly able to type. If you look at college students, they are very good in sending WhatsApp messages or texting. They are excellent, right? They know how to use the various shortcuts and other things. So that is also a kind of writing. So the question, is writing relevant today? It is definitely more relevant, I would say, because that is how we express others. Dr. Manjushri was talking about how we used to write long letters, and how these letters have become one liners these days. So, whether it is a one liner or a long letter, it still has those words. And the challenge has become more today, because when Twitter is going to give you only like 250 or 280 characters, earlier it used to be 140, and they have slightly increased it to 280 now, which means that they also understand that the human need to express more cannot be satisfied in very small amount of characters. So you now know that writing is more relevant, because it is only through writing that we express, whether it is in social media or letter writing. So we are definitely living in a time challenged world. Nobody has the time. That is why we are using a lot of emojis. When I want to say sure, cool, or when I want to say all the best, I just put a thumbs up, right? And when I want to say, okay, this news is very disappointing, when I want to say, I feel really down, don't eat my brains. So we quickly do these emojis. We kind of use emojis very talent. We use them very creatively also sometimes. And then I still remember when we had those Nokia phones, we used to use punctuations to create smileys. And then we used to have a challenge: who is able to create a very innovative kind of a smiley using the punctuation marks. But these days you can use your own faces to create stickers and emojis also. So in a time challenged world, we know that our messages, our writing has to be short and snappy. Short and snappy in the sense, you read it, you want to explore it, right? You want to explore it. Now, who do you think are writing all these movie, the crux of the movie? You have to write the review of the movie, but you should not say the climax. You just have to say. Now all of us are watching so many movies, whether it is like Amazon Prime or Sony Live or Disney Hotstar, Netflix. When we try to watch a movie, there is something written. It says how a 16-year-old tries to find his ideal partner in life, and then this happens, a turn of events, but then life opens a different door to him. Can you see how it has to be short and snappy, but it should also pull the reader? The writing should make the person who is browsing to go and watch that particular movie. So it has to be short and it has to be snappy when you're definitely writing for social media, or when you're creating content online. Clickbait headlines, I think this is something most of you would have fallen for. You will read something on the newspaper, when you're reading all these Google News or something. There will be something like, learn how this Indian housewife makes 10,000 rupees per hour sitting at home. Okay, so if you go into it, it will be a very long story. But then if you read that particular headline, you will feel like clicking on it. So that is called a clickbait headline. So mostly these kind of headlines are also created by all these online writers. And then Twitter streams. So we follow a lot of people on Twitter, and we try and we wait for their messages. We want to see what is their take on a particular idea. So how they write very in sharp language, how do they write those Twitter streams, we also understand. Instagram feeds are also becoming very important these days, because a lot of businesses have gone online, right? Since the lockdown, all of us know that most of the things that we are asking for has become contactless, and we are able to get what we want online. So most businesses have gone online, reaching the customers or reaching the stakeholders, right? So, and then GIFs also. So even if you look at GIFs, you understand that it has to give you a message in a very funny but in a very accurate manner. And then I hope all of you understand when it comes to the world of memes. When you talk about the social media, I've heard some of my students tell me, ma'am, I just keep scrolling down because I want to just look at the memes in social media, and it is so much fun. So even though we are not directly connected, when we look at a meme, we start thinking, we start laughing, and we start forwarding it without knowing. So for them, for the social media people, you know very well that the scrolling, when we keep scrolling, we stop at a point when the words pull us, right? So imagine we are going on window shopping, so we just keep walking, we see so many things, we are not interested, we don't want to buy, but suddenly when we see something, we stop and we just check the price, and maybe we end up buying it. Similarly, when you write on social media, based on the words that you are using, people might be interested in reading the content. So, for the question that I asked previously, whether writing matters anymore or whether writing um, is relevant anymore, the answer is here. I believe that writing matters more now. Imagine if my student was going to write something and send it to me on a paper, only I will read it, right? And I will say, okay, these are the mistakes, you should not use it. If he's going to write the same on a Facebook post, if he's going to make the mistakes there, then he knows very well that so many people would have read it. So you have to be all the more careful. A very simple example would be that most of you have this automatic typing on. Sometimes you type two letters, but then the word comes up. So when you're sending hi, see, the Indian hi is different from the universal hi. Universal hi has only hi, but Indians have a habit of putting HAI, right? HAI, the Google, it does not understand. It says, which word is this? I don't know this word. So it adds one extra R to it. Okay, now imagine if you're going to send somebody here, that's not a nice thing, right? So you have to take care of your writing now. That is why writing matters more now. And because you are all writing very less, you have to express the same amount of emotion in that many less words, right? Ma'am and I, we were just discussing how the power of expression can be sustained if the quantity gets reduced. Earlier, we used to carry a big landline phone, okay, in our houses. So you will have the landline phone, or you will have the PCO where you will go and make calls. But these days, it's very easy. You carry such a small mobile phone, which is like a computer. And earlier, I still remember I had a big a desktop. The televisions used to be like box size. But these days, you are only using a flat screen, so it has come that thin it has become. But then the quality, we are talking about 4K, we are talking about the quality, HD, high definition, ultra high definition, OLED, and all these technologies, right? Similarly, writing also, if you're not going to write 5 paragraphs, if you're going to write only 5 lines as an email, can you see how your content has to be uh, that very sharp and powerful? It has to be concentrated, but the same ideas have to be expressed. right? So writing definitely matters more now, because in the online world, the words that we use are our emissaries. They are our ambassadors of our thoughts, right? Whatever I put on the Facebook, whatever I put on Instagram is me. In fact, there is a new kind of profession coming up, which is called image consultancies. Okay, so what do image consultants do? They look at you, your character, your profile, your profession, everything, and they also look at your social media, and they tell you whether these are some of the words that you must be using in social media, because it will affect your personal image and branding. So personal branding has become a very I think it has become a very sensitive thing these days. People are very sensitive about how they express themselves, what kind of brands they use, and so people are very choosy now. Say for example, a very personal example, I use only Skechers shoes. So when somebody asks me, why don't you try this Adidas, or why don't you try, I have like for office, for and whether it is going to be casual or for my jogging, I have only those brand shoes, and I'm very comfortable with them. I cannot accept a gift from somebody which is a different brand, because I have become very finicky about it, and I'm extremely comfortable. If you ask me the reason, I will say yes, they are expensive, but they are very comfortable, and I don't want to change loyalties because I'm happy with those shoes, right? So personal branding is very important to me, and the kind of things I carry, the kind of things I use. Words are also certain things that we use. So we have to be very careful about us, about the words, because they are telling the world who we are. So this is the crux of my argument when it comes to the importance of writing, especially for social media and the virtual world. So this is a very favorite picture of all young girls, and you know who he is, Benedict Cumberbatch. Of course, when he plays the role of Sherlock Holmes, right? He is a very popular actor also. You would have seen him in Avengers. Now, he is perceived to be a person who is very thoughtful, because we have seen a lot of Sherlock Holmes, Arthur Conan Doyle, Sherlock Holmes have been made into other movies. We also have seen Robert Downing Jr., who acted as Sherlock Holmes. But when this particular actor started playing Sherlock Holmes, there was a twist to that entire character, because he will speak very sharply, right? And very thoughtfully. Every word he uses will be very thoughtful. He will say things like elementary, Dr. Watson. So elementary means this is so basic, you don't even understand that. And then he will say, you only see, you don't observe. So these dialogues have become very popular. So when you are writing well, it also makes you look very thoughtful. Oh, this is a very serious person. When you are going to attend an interview, when they are going to check the social media profile of yours, the words that are used on those pages will also have an impact on your chances of being selected or not selected. Okay, so it's absolutely important for us to use very good words, so that we come across as very thoughtful, very sensitive people also. And you would have also heard about how there have been lot of tweet wars, right? When I say tweet wars, I'm talking about how somebody writes something and then there is a big fight over it, and people want to make that particular person to take it back. So there can be a lot of problems. That is why we have to be very thoughtful. So I hope you would agree with me in all these ideas that I have put on this particular slide. Our writing can make us look smart or stupid, right? So the words that we are using can make us look smart or stupid. It can make us look like we are very fun loving people, we are very warm and caring people. So it can also help us in making our character that way, and it can also show us to be in a very competent manner, that we are very competent in doing certain things, whether we are trustworthy. So our writing is going to show all that, whether we are humdrum, boring, discombobulated, just like the word is very difficult to pronounce, whether we are writing sentences that are repetitive, that are long, and flat out boring. So based on our writing itself, people will be able to guess our character also. So there are all these apps these days where people meet different people to become friends, or whether it is dating or other reasons. They read a lot, they understand each other, and they understand from the kind of messages they write that either they are interesting people or they are kind of boring people. Yes. Now moving on to the content. When we talk about content in social media, what are we talking about? We are talking about web pages, right? So most of us these days, even if you want to try, and when we buy some kind of in gadget, at once we go to the internet to look at how it is going to be done. All of you must be very familiar with the WikiHow pages. The WikiHow pages are very popular because they tell you how something can be done. So now, when you write for those particular web pages or product pages, okay, or blogs or email newsletters, that is called virtual content, online content. So sometimes we are expected to create content which can support a product, which can explain a product much better. So imagine if you are going to read a manual, right? If you're going to read a manual, and if you are going to not understand something, then you'll be wondering who wrote this manual. Why is this manual so difficult? The manual is supposed to help you understand the product better, right? So writing these kind of product pages and reaching out to the correct audience, all these things are absolutely important. And even these email newsletters, see, these days we keep wondering how all these people get our email IDs. We get these emails like you have $100,000, or you have there's a special gift waiting for you. These are all called as clickbaits. But even among those kind of mails, these days people are becoming smarter. People understand that if I tell you you have won $500,000, you are not interested. You are not going to open that mail. So they are finding different kinds of ways to write. So that kind of content also has to be developed, and there is a big market for us to do this kind of writing and also earn more. Okay, so it does not stop with just email newsletters. We also know that social media writing includes any kind of writing on Instagram, on Twitter, whether it is Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube. So even on YouTube, the way you describe your video, when you describe your video or when you give a title to your video, we understand that it is very important to be crisp and to the point, because only when we do that we understand that it is going to generate, it is going to attract people. So all these things will help us understand why writing is important and what kind of creative writing we need to do. Okay, when we talk about creative writing for social media, there are two different things that we are actually thinking about. The first thing is content creation, and the second thing is content curation. So you must be wondering what this content creation is and what is this content curation. A content creation, in the sense, completely you are creating the content. There was nothing like that which was existing earlier, right? So when you're going to do that kind of a content for your blog, you select the topic, you start writing. But it is very difficult for us to write without any kind of background research. We all have to do our research, and it is only based on the research that we write a lot of things. But these days, if you see, when it comes to social media, there is something called content curation. So most of you would have come across these kinds of websites, right? uh, Top 10 places to visit in 2020, or something like 5 places you must visit before you die. So this is called content curation. So this is not coming from from you altogether, but instead you are looking at various things and you are writing all these ideas together. This is called content curation. So imagine if you're going to create a social media post where you're talking about your favorite movies. So now it's the end of the year, and most of us are creating these kind of posts. The top 5 books I read this year. So you have to be curating a lot of content, and then you have to add your creativity also. Simply just like that, you cannot imagine and write. You have to write in a very specific and sharp manner, because as man said earlier, If your post is going to be longer, nobody is going to read it. So it has to be excellently carved. The words have to be chosen. Okay, the first word that comes to our mind need not necessarily go into that. We'll have to think about it and then we have to write. So content creation and content curation are two different aspects of creating writing, especially when it comes to social media and blogging. So we follow many people's blogs because they can be about travel, they can be about cooking, they can be about fashion, so we will have to see which age group of the audience are we targeting, and we also have to plan before we start writing. Um I always tell my students, when it comes to creative writing, please keep the word map in your mind. So map actually stands for message, audience, and purpose. Okay. So of course, your message is the most important thing when you write. You also have the audience, because only based on which audience that you're writing for, your message will also be written in that way, and purpose. So when I say purpose, whether you have your content carries any value for them. Okay, so we will have to think about all these things before we jump into writing. And planning is an important aspect, because imagine you want to take a picture. Imagine you ask your friend to take a picture, and your friend just takes the camera, holds in front of you, clicks it, and gives. You will be happy? No, you will be asking, did you focus properly? You will trust a photographer who takes a lot of time to take a picture. They will say, okay, stand this side. Can you just move? Wait, let me focus. Right. So similarly, planning is also very important. If you're not, it is like focusing in a camera. If you don't plan before you write, it means that you're simply clicking a picture without focusing. So keep all these things in mind when it comes to content creation or curation. Again, the question now becomes, are you telling your story from your unique perspective with a voice and style that's clearly all you? I'm sure that most of you would have listened to a lot of TED Talks, right? You know that in TED Talks, we have a huge range of speakers coming from different places of, expertise. And then they keep talking about their areas where they had challenges or successes, their success stories, they say. But what pulls us, what helps us focus for that 15 to 18 minutes? You know, the length of the TED Talk is becoming much more shorter. And these days, we want to listen to podcasts which are lesser than 5 minutes, but we want the gist. Okay. Even when we are watching YouTube videos, we see the video which is very short, and we want good content in it. We don't want to waste time. We keep pushing, right? We keep dragging the button till it comes to the place where we want to actually listen. So when you speak or when you write your story, you should have a unique perspective that is completely yours, right? Even if you're going to write about a rat picker, what is your perspective? You might be observing that rat picker for a very long time from your window of your house or something. So create that kind of an ambience, create that unique perspective. And then the voice and the style should also be you, right? So, like I told you, it is going to be your personal branding. We know that a particular movie director will take particular kind of movies. We know that a particular actor will act in a particular type of movies, right? Similarly, our writing becomes our style. So based on what we write, people will start judging us, people will start branding us also. Okay. So good writing, if you ask me, it is the foundation of good content. So first of all, choose your content. Like I told you, in map, M comes first, message comes first, right? So based on the content, you will have to decide what you're going to write. So that will be the foundation. And then it also mirrors good and clear thinking. I always tell my students, even if you're going to write an essay, think about the structure of the essay, right? Just like that, you can't say the moment you look at the topic, you can't keep writing. You have to plan the structure. Similarly, when you're writing a letter also, you know very well there is a structure. When you write an email, there is a structure. When you want to submit a proposal, okay, a proposal to an entrepreneurship proposal or a business proposal, it has to have a structure which shows that you are a clear and good thinker, a logical thinker. And also you should have this reader centric. When you are writing your answers, you know very well who is going to read it. You know that your teacher is going to read it, so you will be basing all your ideas at that level, right? Similarly, when you are going to write for social media, also think about the particular audience who would be reading. Read The reader centric point of view will help you, and then it has to be intuitive, right? Intuitive in the sense, don't create something that is very fake, or the words that you're using, it can try and destroy the ideas of a good readership. And empathic point of view, I think this is very important. These days we have the problem of confusing sympathy and empathy. So when it comes to empathy, try and learn, okay, if somebody wrote this post, will you read first? Okay, in case you think the answer is yes, then go ahead and read it, go ahead and write it or post it. So be very empathetic to the person, to the reader who will try and read your post, because that becomes absolutely important in good writing. Okay, so for me, this is the formula for quality content. If somebody is going to ask me, ma'am, this is my blog, and can you say whether this is a good blog? We teach a lot of blog writing at our university. I will say the utility of it. Is there any usefulness of it? If it is poetry, is there an aesthetic value to it? Okay. Is Does that inspire someone to do something? If it is a short story, right? Does that inspire someone to do something? And is there some level of empathy? Now imagine I start writing a blog of about all my adventures outside, but my target audience are my students may or may not be interested in knowing about all that. I might it will be not a good idea to write about content that they are not interested in. So I have to empathize with them. This is why when I create worksheets, or when I create some language discussion topics with my students, or creative writing ideas with my students, I always give topics which they are interested in. I ask a question like, okay, imagine you become this character in the video game, what will you do? How will you change the video game? Okay, imagine you are this heroine in this particular movie. What major changes will you bring in that movie? So all these are creative activities, right? Because there is a lot of thinking involved, and then they have to creatively come up with the certain ideas which will change the course of the movie, or which will give them a lot of ideas about the video game, a different perspective about it. So we have to empathize with the students. If I'm going to if I have a class full of boys, and if I'm going to tell them, okay, you write the recipe for this particular idea, okay, they might not empathize with it. Of course, we are not gender stereotyping here. These days there is no difference between boys or girls when it comes to recipes or cooking, but then it should resonate with them, right? Similarly, when you do something with the social media, also think about empathizing with the audience. Only then you can produce quality content. Great. So these days, when you write about certain things, we have read a lot of social media posts that talk about offers. They talk about offers. When you read those headings, or when you read those ideas, you know what kind of words they are using. Why I have put this picture is, you have to read closely to what kind of sentences or phrases that they are using. The sentence structure is very different. The marketing techniques are very different. And these days, like I told you, for content development, people are looking for good writers who can write about these things. Then they also write about calls to action. In all these emails that we get, there will be a last line: avail this offer by 20th December, before the offer expires, right? So it is not like you're writing just for fun or creativity. Sometimes there has to be some kind of a return, some kind of a call to action. That is what we call in digital writing, marketing. It's very important. And then sometimes we also write for social media updates. So social media updates also involves a lot of creative writing. Now imagine we just travel somewhere and we are clicking pictures. These days we take a lot of time in writing the caption, right? So say if I'm going to take a picture of something, I have to put a very nice caption to it. It is me doing this. I cannot simply say, okay, say for example, I go to Kanyakumari to see the sunset, okay, or the sunrise. I take a picture of myself, a selfie with the sun, and then I cannot put the sun is rising or the sun is setting. That would make such a boring tagline, wouldn't it? So we have to come up with these brilliant ideas. We have to come up with very sharp and crisp ideas which will help others to read, and it adds more flavor to the post itself. Again, blog posts. Blog posts are slightly longer than social media posts because bloggers have become one of the go-to persons these days, because bloggers are some who can think a lot. They are also creatively, they have that kind of space and liberty to express. Blogging is becoming a huge market. It has a huge market these days. Not only blogging, if you see something called vlogging, so I hope you would have heard this word called vlogging with a V. So vlogging, what they do is they create a video logging. So blogging comes from the word for web logging, where you're just logging everything that you're doing into the web through typing. But then when you're doing this vlogging, you're video logging everything. You just record everything. Okay, today morning I got up and I did this, just like people on spaceships do. So these days, this video logging is also becoming extremely popular. But again, even in video logging, you have to have the script, whether it is a spoken script or a written script, right? So you will have the script and you will have to speak. People will watch our vlogs only there are interesting words in it, only if the script is very interesting. That is why writing is very important. Dazzle with brevity. So all of us know very well that brevity is the soul of wit, and most of us love things that are very short. Short movies, short films are becoming huge hits these days because we don't have the time to watch everything. Even the advertisements that we watch, we want it to be very short, right? So when it comes to social media writing, I think creative writing has to be quite brief, especially in social media. Like I told you, Twitter has only a very limited character range that you can use. So brevity has to be one of the most important characteristics, especially in social media writing and in blogs. That is how we can actually dazzle, they say. So let me just discuss a few writing rules. Words are the currency of the web. You have to understand that. Imagine if you open Google, if you want to learn about anything, first thing you type is some word. I want to know how this works. And then there are a lot of other words coming up. You see the interface of the web page. You see how it is organized. And some web pages have a lot of clutter. We need to be very creative in organizing the page. So just like to live in the outside world, we need money, we need currency. Similarly, in the web world, everything is comprised of words only. So we'll have to understand that. So when you are talking about creative writing, there are some basic tools. Working knowledge of English we will need, because most of us are entering all these writing only in English language. And whether it is grammar, spelling, usage, and punctuation, we have to pay attention to it. And also, the other tool that you need to have is the eagerness to become a better writer. If you don't have that kind of an eagerness, I'm sorry, writing is going to be very difficult. Just like we saw how the person was building his muscles by regular exercise. And when you're writing anything, this is something I always tell my students: place the most important words and ideas at the beginning of each sentence, right? So when you are writing something, it is absolutely important that you put the most important word in the beginning of the sentence, okay? So you also have, I've given you some example. Now say if you're going to write some report on social media or something, you want to get people's attention. So look at this particular sentence here. According to the National Assessment of Adult Literacy released in 2019 by the Department of Education, 30 million adults struggle with basic reading tasks. Now, the most important idea discussed here is the number. We are all shocked. Oh, 30 million people cannot read properly. So that 30 million should be put first. Now look at the second sentence. 30 million others struggle with reading. Okay, so we think that creative writing stops only with the poetry or with the film script writing, but then no, creative writing also has a role to play, whether you're writing a report or anything. You can see how this second sentence will give more clarity for the reader. No, it would be better if you avoid these words when you are writing, a social media post, because these are all words that are, I wouldn't say boring, but very uncharacteristic of social media writing. Don't begin your sentences with like, according to, there is a belief, it is important, in my opinion. Okay, so please try and avoid these kinds of words. Follow a writing GPS. Now, what do I mean by a writing GPS? Earlier, I used the word map. Now, I have used the word GPS because these days, all of us are using only GPS. We are not using a map. Think before you ink it. Okay. Why am I creating this particular post? What is my objective? What is my key take on this subject or the issue? Do I have a particular stand on this issue, or am I simply writing to while away my time? So, you will have to think about that. First, think about what is your subject and what is my point of view. And finally, the most critical question, so what? Why does it matter to the people who you are trying to reach? Right? So, this is the audience perspective. So, ask all these questions before you start writing. And then the roadmap, it should have a creating a coherent and a cogent piece of writing that others can understand and appreciate. So it is obviously important that it has to be coherent. Okay. Here I have a 12-step formula for you. So the first one is goal. You have to think about the goal of your writing before you start writing. And then the second one is try to reframe. Reframe in the sense you have the idea, but then reframe it, put this first, put that later. That reframing has to happen. And then seek out data. Don't think that if it's a social media post, you can just say things off your head. You should have strong data if you want to support that. Organize a little, okay, organize all your data. And then imagine you're writing to one person. That way, the connect will be very strong. Okay, because only one person will be reading it at a time, right? So when that person is reading, there should be that emotional connect. And then you have to produce the ugly first draft. So the first draft that you produce might be very ugly, but don't worry about it. Give it some time. Just walk away from the writing, move away, and then try and rewrite it. This is how, these are certain secrets of bloggers. They say this is what they do. I spoke to a few bloggers before I prepared this. Then you give the title, but most of us start with the title. Okay, we should not be doing that. Then you kind of edit whichever you want, you kind of check if it is readable, and then you publish it online. So this is a 12-step formula that I would recommend to any person who wants to kind of write creatively in the social media. Outline is critical. What do I mean by outline is critical? See, I hope this is very obvious. Angsty, brooding Danish prince goes nuts but murders many, including the creepy uncle who had killed his father and married his mother. So this is the most popular story in the world, Shakespeare's Hamlet, which has been made into so many movies, and we know the storyline. But when it goes on social media, we know that the 20 plus 30, 40 pages of the Hamlet play has been reduced to this many lines. This is called dazzle with brevity. So I would also like you to draw your attention to this particular person's social media writing technique. He says he writes the Awaken Your Superhero blog. That is one of the most popular blogs in the world. And then he says there are 9-sentence fragments. Whatever you want to say, plan it in 9 sentences. Then you add ideas. That is one of his formula that he has given. Very interesting. And he writes almost daily. Just like I told you, we have to exercise daily. He writes almost daily. Okay. So also plan. You have to organize your blog post or your article. Without that, please do not post it. When you're organizing, you can organize it into different ways. You can do it like a quiz. Okay, you would have seen many blogs. Do it like your quiz. Imagine you want to write something about internet privacy. Okay, how private is our data online? So you can do it as a quiz. If you are taking a very skeptical note on it, you can say you don't control your privacy anymore. Then it becomes very interesting. Okay, people want to read. Oh my God, what is this person saying? Explainer. Explainer is a very descriptive way of saying the online piracy debate in plain English. Case study. You can see how the same topic has been given different perspectives. So instead of simply saying understanding online privacy, look at so many ideas how to, how not to. Okay, if you want to say it in the narrative first person, my personal privacy horror story. If you are going to write my personal privacy story, nobody will read. The word horror creates that that's the clickbait word there. People will start reading. So some more techniques, try and compare. Okay, or do a Q&A kind of a blogging, or if you have data, use the data and say what are the problems. And if it is a common man, you can try and do like this. So these are all several ways in which you can try and write if you want to do creative writing in online. So there are also some questions that you should be asking. Please ask yourself, what am I trying to say? What will be the right words to express it? Also choose metaphors, images, or idiom, like what I chose in the beginning. I chose the Lion King. I chose the man who was exercising, the image. And also, is it fresh enough or it has been used several times? So you'll have to think about it. And of course, making it short is very important. And don't say too much of details which are very, vulgar or gory. And what kind of experience is it creating for the reader? What questions they might have? Think about all this before you start writing itself. Okay, am I making it too hard? Sometimes after you read a blog, you'll be like, why did I read it? It's very difficult to understand. So writing is actually easy. All you have to do is cross out the wrong words. There are two things: developmental editing and line editing. Developmental editing means it's called the chainsaw editing, cut out major chunks. Okay, and then line editing, minute microscopic editing. Both are important when you write for the social media in order to avoid errors. Okay, so many of us have questions about this. We talk about the ideal length. We want to know how long can I write, how short can I write. If you are going to have doubts about that, you can just go through this. I'm not going to read it out, but we know that online virtual writing, this is the rules that we have. So if you want to select a topic also, what happens? You have to do your newsjacking right after the breaking news comes. So you have to select topics which are still fresh and new, because with time it becomes old news and people are done with it. They don't want to hear that story again. Okay, so some content tools for you. These days we are doing mostly online tools. So here are some online tools. So Google Keep is something that we all use regularly. Evernote is also very popular if you want to create notes, right? So you can explore later if you want. And then writing tools, okay? Content tools you have, then you have writing tools also. So these tools you can try and use. They give you a lot of templates where you can beautifully create content. Okay, I would like to conclude with this particular idea called Twitterature, because Twitterature, is a word. It's a portmanteau word, a combination of Twitter and literature. Most of you would have read this text. So in Twitterature, what they have done is they have taken the classics, okay, the classics which we think are like sacred and sacrosanct, but then they have taken all the classics in the world and almost 30 to 40 of them, and they have written in Twitter language. Okay, so because I have been emphasizing on dazzling with brevity, this is a very strong recommendation. I think the book is available online. When you read it, you will understand how interesting can we make writing for social media, and what kind of wit and wisdom we should be giving away when it comes to social media writing. So that would be one of my recommendations for the day. Okay, so if there are any questions you want to ask me, now will be the time, and that would be the end of the session. Thank you, Manjushri ma'am.
Thank you, Shobha. Actually, it was a fantastic, very impressive presentation. And in the chat, there is only one question. Maybe it is a student who wants to know actually what is the meaning of a blog? Why do you call it a blog?
Okay, so very good question. Thank you for that question. Now, blog comes from the word web log. Okay, most of us have started documenting or recording our ideas. Now, even if I'm a research student, imagine I don't want to write things on a notebook or something. I open a blog page and I keep putting my ideas. I can either make it private or I can make it public also. So when I am making it public, imagine I am a very budding writer. Now, all of you know that there are a lot of independent musicians. Independent musicians, in the sense, they start playing on YouTube, they upload their music videos on YouTube, then lot of interest generates, then they start playing for movies. Big music directors approach them, then they become very famous. Blogging is also a similar idea. Imagine I am a good writer, but I don't have the confidence to approach good publishers. So what I start doing is I create this blog and I start writing. And a lot of people, when if I'm going to write about English language or English vocabulary, a lot of people who want to improve their English vocabulary might start following my blog. And when they start following my blog, the traffic will be increased, and then there is also an element of revenue that is generated, and I get popularity. Okay, so that is a blog.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And how to attract attention to your blog? That is what Reena Sheikh is saying. But I
Okay.
think you have already dealt with that
Yes, yes.
question. But one or two lines if you want to tell her.
Okay. One thing that I would like to emphasize is, now imagine you creating a blog is like, uh, you know, it's not like you just create and you leave it. You have to keep it active. Keep it active in the sense, give the link to friends, ask them to read and share. And also, whenever you're writing something new, you just tell them that I have also written about this particular article in that blog, and you get the feedback from your friends and your teachers. And no better way than helping them, asking them to share, so that a lot of people start reading it, and based on the feedback you can improve yourself.
Yes. And Jyoti Moria wants to know whether the blogging rules are useful in content writing also.
Absolutely, yes. These days, the rules are becoming a little fluid and flexible. Anything that gains attention is allowed. So on blogging, of course, you have to keep updating it. You have to write on content regularly. There is no problem with space or anything. A lot of content can be stored in a blog, and then people, once they start reading it, it gains a lot of momentum.
Yes. Thank you. You dealt with each and every aspect of social media and blog. And in detail, you have explained everything right from the title to the content and how the title should be catchy and how it should be brief. And again, brevity. Yes, brevity also is very important. And yes, so many things you talked about, content creation and content curation and so many, yes. And all these are very important, because these are the things which are important, because if you don't have a proper title, then whatever, maybe your content might be very interesting, but it might not catch the attention of the readers. So these are the small things, but these are very important. So thank you very much, dear Shobha. You really, it was a very useful and educative session. And while talking to you, we realized that this social media is more about, I think, sociology and psychology than about technology, isn't it?
Exactly, because it's
Yes.
filled with humans.
Yes, yes. And whatever we post, whatever photograph we put, and everything talks about you. It gives your personality. So, yes, so you have to learn all those things. It is marketing also. So you have to
Exactly.
learn, yes, to put yes, to have a nice face and to put the correct things in writing. So all these things also matter a lot, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So thank you so much
Yes.
for creating this opportunity, because this is the first time we are meeting. I think virtual communication has also given the confidence to trust a lot of
Yes.
strangers.
Yes.
Though
Yes.
we are academicians, ma'am, we have never met, but during the first meeting itself, we know that we are working in the same kind of space, and very
Yes.
quickly we have
Yes.
connected with each other. I hope
Yes.
this stays as a
Yes.
very
Yes.
long relationship, and
Yes.
I'm looking forward to working with you and collaborating with you.
Yes.
So all the best to
Definitely.
the students who have attended the session, and
Yes.
keep rocking.
Yes, and many people want your PPT also. So let me tell you, students and the teachers and all those who are attending, that this is there on YouTube. So anytime you can watch YouTube and go through the session again. So it is there are asking PPT, so that's why I want to say that. And there are students who are not attending live sessions. Let me tell you, students, that at the end of this course you will have to submit an assignment, whatever you have heard related to social media, blog, poetry writing, editorials, and article writing, whatever you these sessions, these people have come all the way. Now they have not come all the way from Chennai, but it is an opportunity for us to listen to people from different parts of India, isn't it? So that is an opportunity to listen to good people and people who are experts in the field. So I feel, students, you should make the most of it. And at the end, I'm going to give you an assignment. You will have to prepare a small creative writing. Maybe it can be a poem, it can be a blog. I'm going to ask you to do that, because I'll give you 1 or 2 days after the course gets over, so that I also come to know whether you have learned something and whether you are going to implement all those things. And yes, and we are there. If you have any problems, yes, you can anytime come back to us. So thank you very much once again, Dr. Shobha. It was nice interacting with you. And students, happy learning. We'll meet tomorrow with another expert in English, and who is an expert in creative writing too. So till then, goodbye and happy learning.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.